Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulihil Kareem. We did two Aqidah points last week. One was a lengthy one, and we went into a bit of detail regarding this one. And the second one was more or less short. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being independent, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not needing anything. Yes? Aqidah number 3. We mentioned a word called muhal, didn't we? Who remembers what it was? Impossible. To understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the mind, as in to attain His essence, understand His essence, and completely attain it in your mind is impossible. Yes? For example, you're a human being and you look at somebody and then you fully capture them in your sight. Yes? To do that with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's essence is impossible. You can't do that. Why? Because when you fully understand something, what happens with it is that your mind fully understands it, then you fully surround that thing, that individual, that entity, that thing. Yes? Nothing of that thing is hidden about you. This for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is impossible. Meaning for us, what's the thing that's impossible? For us to get an image, for us to have full knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is impossible for us to have. Why? Because if we get full knowledge, having knowledge of something and having full knowledge of something, then our minds surround that being, that thing, that object. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is free from being surrounded by anything. He surrounds the whole of the world by His knowledge. He encompasses the whole of the world by His knowledge, but nothing surrounds this and nothing can encompass Him. Yeah? Another, if you look at a different way, is if just like you look at somebody and you get image of them in your brain. Yes? And whenever you want to think of that person, of how his facial expressions were, how his hand gestures were, and so on and so forth, you can do that. And you get a full image of that person. You would, wouldn't you? If you really concentrate. Now the thing is that if you do that for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then it means that you would have an image of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You would have an image of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But to get an image, what do you need? To see. But even just to make that image, you need form, don't you? If you go right to the basics of it, right to the bottom of it, you need form. You need matter. You need a form, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is free of forms. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is free of form, meaning body, mass. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is free of this. Briefly, we can't surround Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His essence. In His essence that He has, we cannot understand Him, we can't encompass Him in our knowledge, but briefly, we have brief knowledge of Him. Through certain actions that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does, for example, He created, so we understand He's Khaliq, He's a creator. We understand some of His attributes by the actions that He makes, that He has mercy upon people, and so on and so forth. And then through those attributes that we understand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we gain some kind of recognition regarding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes? We gain some, meaning we understand that Allah is Rahman, He is Rahim, He's Qahhar, He's Jabbar, and all these attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But for you to take all those attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, being merciful and so on and so forth, then say that you have a complete image of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That can't be done. Look, if I was to describe Zaid to you, yes? Zaid is a handsome man. Yes? And he's always got silk clothes on. Okay? Pink silk clothes. Okay? He's got a beard growing to his belly button. I'm just making things up. And he walks really fast. He might be. He hasn't got a turban on. For example, I'm just making attributes up. But as I make an attribute up, what's happening in your brain?
Building an image.
You're building an image. You go to police officers and you've seen a theft taking place, or somebody's had a fight and you've seen, somebody hit somebody, and then the police officer comes, and then do they call it e-fits? Yes? It's e-fit, isn't it? They make an e-fit, they get the artist and he makes it. These days they do it on computers now. So they make an e-fit, and sometimes they're spot on. Yes? But all you're doing is describing that person. You're describing this thief, this criminal, and what? Many times they get it spot on. And you see that the e-fit that they released and this criminal that they caught, they're more or less the same. Yes? Now, but how did that person get that? By you describing and him getting an image of this person. But what happened? By those descriptions, you surrounded the whole of this person and the whole image of this person. That's where the image came out. You can't do that for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can get to know Him by His attributes, but you won't know Him in terms of knowledge. You won't know Him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in terms of His essence. And you can't get an image of Him. Because why? Because He's free of images. It'll be one of the Aqidahs as well, that every single thing, every thought that you get of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as an image inside your mind, Allah is the opposite of that. He's free of that. That's one of the Aqidahs that will come later on. So do you understand this point? Aqidah number 3. That it's impossible for us to truly gain full knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala regarding what is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes? We only know what we know by the Quran, by the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam. Aqidah number 4. This one's a bit hard to understand, but I'm going to tell you anyway, just in case you hear it somewhere else. Yes? Regarding the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, la aynuhu wa la ghayruhu. His attributes are neither His essence, but la aynuhu wa la ghayruhu, and they are not anything but His essence. So there is not His essence, yes, but they're not opposite His essence as well. As in, they're not against His essence. They're not away from His essence as well. It seems to be contradicting, doesn't it? Yes. One minute we're saying He's not His essence, and then we're saying that it's not other than His essence as well. So it seems to contradict. Something for you to understand. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's tawheed, oneness, has to stay one in every aspect. So first of all, you can't have an image of God, His mercy being one thing, and then His essence being another thing. Yes? For example, you have attributes. You get angry. So somebody will say that this is how his anger is and this is how he is now. Yes? Meaning, its attributes are a temporal state, aren't they?
Could you give like an example of water? Like water is wet when you touch it. When it's frozen, it's ice. It won't necessarily make a essence of that water would be the H2O particles that it's made of.
But it still has attributes, doesn't it? And it gets frozen.
Yeah, but them attributes can change. So Allah's mercy can be merciful upon the believers.
You have to understand one thing, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you'll come across this later on, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is free of changes. Yeah? We can give examples to understand things, but we can't give examples of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Remember that. Laysa kamislihi shay'un. There's nothing like Him. So many times we'll give examples, those examples will only be for a certain aspect, to understand something. Yes? But they won't be befitting as an example of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because you can't give examples regarding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. With that example is that water has temporal states as well. And the temporary states that you said, woman is wet and then the next minute is frozen. But that's a temporary state, it's changed. Yes? Here is slightly different. What we're talking about here is that the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because of His oneness, you can't keep them separate. One attribute of us is, for example, we have black hair. Yes? But this blackness can disappear as well. With the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you can't do that. And then, if you do say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's essence is something else and His attribute is something else, then you just said He's a combination of, at the minimum, of two things. Yes? Where's Tawheed in that? Then He Tawheed in that. We're meant to prove God to be one in all aspects. We've just proven that He's made up of two things. His essence and then an attribute. That's wrong then, isn't it? So in this aspect, we can't say that God's attributes are not His essence. They are His essence. Okay? But in the same manner, we can't say that these attributes make up the essence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For example, when we say Rahman, merciful, if we say Rahman, merciful, do you, even though it's impossible for us to fully understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but just through this attribute of being merciful, do you understand majority of the attributes of Allah? No, you only understood one attribute. So from there we know that Rahman does not fully describe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It only describes one attribute. So that's why we have to say that it does not describe His essence fully. It does not describe. So we can't separate it from His essence, because that's who God is. Yes? But we can't also say that it's the opposite of His essence as well. So it is His essence and it's other than His essence as well. It is His essence in the sense that we can't separate these attributes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we say it's not other than His essence as well, in the sense that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's essence don't make, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's attributes don't make Him, as we just understood. So do you understand that concept? It's a hard concept to understand. Okay, it's an ilmi kalam issue. Truth is, if I go into it more, we'll have to use a lot of terminology, and that's where I lose you, and the class will be over. Okay, so we're not going to go into that. But remember that it's la aynuhu wa la ghayruhu. La aynuhu wa la ghayruhu. It's a simple phrase that we have in ilmi kalam. La aynuhu. So ayn means essence here. Okay. Ayn in the Arabic language has, I think, about 7 meanings. Okay, ayn can mean eye, ayn can mean essence, specific thing. Ayn can mean a fountain as well. Okay? And there's lots of meanings like that. But here it means essence. Ghayruhu, we use that in Urdu as well, don't we? Ghayr, yes. Other than, yes, other. Aqidah number 5. We mentioned that the essence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this word qadim came. Who remembers the translation of qadim? No beginning, okay? No beginning. That's what qadim means. Okay? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's essence has no beginning. In the same manner, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's all his attributes are also qadim, they have no beginning. They have no beginning. Why? Because his attributes are his essence, and yet they're not his essence as well. Yes? As in, you can't separate them from his essence. This is an easy way to understand la aynuhu wa la ghayruhu, that they don't make up his essence. Yes? But then you can't separate them from his essence. If you say part, then you're saying that they. This is why we're trying.
They're intrinsic to his essence.
They're intrinsic to his essence. Remember, his essence are his attributes as well. Yes? But we're not looking at them as parts. Yes? Look, you're one person. You are one person, as in an individual. Even though if you look at mass, then we can be divided up. Let's just forget we are like that. Yes? Think you're like a soul that can just go straight through walls. Okay? And can't be divided. You have attributes. You have attributes. For example, how you show mercy to others, how you speak to others, and so on and so forth. But that makes you, that makes your personality, that makes you you. And that is something really that, even though it's possible, because we're humans, it's possible for these attributes to remove from us, aren't they? Yes? It's easy for a rude man to become polite. Yes? You know, the shaitan, the biggest liar, the cursed shaitan, he told the truth once. Yes? Told the truth. You know, the hadith of Sayyidina Abu Huraira, and they were looking after the zakat funds, or rather the food of zakat that was given. And shaitan came to him for 3 nights, didn't he? And then he told him a certain verse, what to read, and you'll be protected from the shaitan. And then later on he came to the Prophet and told the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet said that the biggest liar has told you the truth. The biggest liar has told you the truth. Okay? So this sometimes happens. So it's possible, isn't it? Yes? But for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for that to take place is impossible, isn't it? Yes? But the attributes, they make our personalities, they don't. That's how you recognize people. So really they're part of our essence as well. They're part of our essence as well. So in just understanding that point with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, these attributes are the essence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but they're not parts. Yes? But they don't fully describe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. The only name that describes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fully is the name Allah. Okay? You say Rahman, it refers to mercy. You say Ghaffar, it refers to repentance. Okay? And so like that. Yes? But if you don't know what you're asking for, just say Allah. It covers all the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, sometimes you're making dua and you're looking for that Ismi Azam. According to Shah Abdul Haq Musa Delvi, he says that the Ismi Azam, the greatest name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is that name in which you are in need in the time which you are in. So if you're thinking about your sins and you're looking for the forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yes, Afav, Ghafoor, Ghaffar, all of these names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are the best names in that time, the greatest names that you can call Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with. But going step ahead, let's say you can't think of any name, because sometimes your mind goes blank. Okay, the ulama say, then there's one name that you can call out and it will still, you will still get the attribute that you're looking for, and that's the name Allah. Yeah? It's a personal name. Look, for example, I'll say Zaid. Zaid, the bookseller. Bookseller is an attribute of his. Yes? Now if I say bookseller, it doesn't tell other people that Zaid is a scholar as well. Does it? If I say Zaid the bookseller, it doesn't tell us that Zaid is an author as well. Yes? He's a doctor and so on and so forth. You can get many attributes like that. But if I say Zaid, and you know Zaid really well, I say Zaid, the great man Zaid. As soon as I say Zaid, and you know him very well, you understand everything regarding him. Whatever you know about him, you'll understand it. He's an author, he's an alim, he's a mufti, he's a Shaykhul Islam, everything. Yes? So when we say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in regards to the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His name covers all of those attributes. So those attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also without beginning. Why? Because they're His essence. When His essence is without beginning, then without a shadow of a doubt His attributes, because they're no different, are they? His essence are His attributes. Yes? But His attributes are not necessarily His essence. In that way around you can understand it as well. It's a hard concept to understand.
Is this similar to your point earlier when you said Allah has no beginning and He has no end? So if His attributes had a beginning, then...
If His attributes had a beginning, because His attributes are His essence, then it contradicts them, doesn't it? We say here that His essence has no beginning, and then we said His essence are neither Him, yes, or la aynuhu wa la ghayruhu, neither Him nor other than Him. So in the part we're saying that these attributes are Him, yes, and then we say that His attributes, for example, we say that His attributes have a beginning. What would that mean then?
He never had
That-
them at one point and that He
Yes,
has an end.
and that's wrong then, isn't it? That will mean that there's a contradiction, and we started off with Him having no beginning, and we ended up with Him having a beginning. That's a contradiction. Then that contradiction will show that what we imagine in the starting is opposite of what proof we gave. Then we call it takhalluf. Call it takhalluf. Takhalluf anid dalil. Yes, whatever we imagine, whatever our dalil was, and then what result we got or what proof, what result we got was totally opposite. Totally. Yeah, it's a paradox. Yes. Okay. But it's a hard concept. This is why I don't want to go into it too much, because it's a lot of logic involved in this. If I was to open it up, it will really baffle your minds in this. But inshallah, if you do ever do Shara Aqaid with me, we'll do it then inshallah. Shara Aqaid, I also teach Khiyali as well. Khiyali is a book which is not really taught Umar. Yes? Khiyali, our big Ustaz Atta Muhammad Bandialvi used to say, when Khiyali used to be taught in the subcontinent, they used to put a green flag upon the teacher's house so that all the ulama would know that this man is teaching Khiyali and they should come and study it to him. Yeah? Because that's how scarce rarely it was taught. Okay? Alhamdulillah, I had the chance of studying Khiyali as well. Yes? Khiyalat-e Khiyali pas bulanda na inja Gul Ahmad Jundas Wale Abdul Hakim Ra Fikre Ali Hal Karda Khiyalat-e Khiyali. Okay? The truth is, to understand Khiyali, you have to read Abdul Hakim Sialkoti. He was a great scholar, And I forgot the king's name. He was a Mughal king in his time. His daughter was one of the greatest alimas of that day and age. Yes? To understand Khiyali, you cannot understand Khiyali without Abdul Hakim Sialkot in Pakistan. Yes? One of my teachers, Anwar al-Mustafa Hamdami, is from Sialkot as well. He wrote the Hashia of Khiyali. Khiyali is a Hashia, a footnote on Shara Aqaid. Yes? And then to understand Khiyali, Sialkoti wrote a Hashia, footnotes on the footnotes of Shara Aqaid. Yes? But you really can't understand it without Sialkotis. Okay? So this is why they say that really to understand it, you have to do that. So what he did when he wrote the Hashia, okay, for the sisters this is, that when he wrote the Hashia on Khiyali, he sent it to the king's daughter. Yes? And she went through it in one night. And she put marks on it, telling him where all the mistakes that he's made and what he should have written. Yes? And then he went back and he corrected them all according to her suggestions. Yes? We praise Sialkoti these days. Imagine what level she was on. Yes? Because it's not easy to spot the ulama's mistakes. Yes? Inshallah, if you ever have a chance to study that to me, inshallah, you learn what la aynuhu wa la ghayruhu really means. Okay? But you'll have to study mantiq before you sit in that class. Okay? You'll have to study a lot of logic and Aristotle's logic as well before you sit in that class. Otherwise, you won't understand what's going on. Aqidah number 6. This is one important Aqidah that you should note down. It's very simple, but you should note it down because it will stop you from a lot of deviances in this day and age. Yes? When somebody says something, you'll know straight away that this is wrong. And what's that? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's attributes are not creation. Because they're part of His essence, aren't they? He's not created, so how can His attributes be created? That's number one. That His attributes are not created or creation. And neither, number two, neither Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's attributes are under His power. Remember that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's attributes are not under His power, His qudra. What's the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called? Qudra. He's Qadir, isn't He? Qadir, and then He has qudra. They're going to come later on anyway.
Number 6 has 2 points.
Yeah, I split them between two, yeah. Qudra. You have Qadir, Qadir. These words come from it. Inna Allah ala kulli shay'in qadir. A lot of people will use this verse, yeah, to try to disprove this Aqidah as well. But this is a specific reason why we say this. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's, astaghfirullah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's attributes are not creation, and nor are His attributes under His power. Is it possible for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to remove His knowledge? No. Why? God has to be all knowledgeable. Is it possible for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to take, His attribute of hayy, that He's ever living? Can He take that attribute away? No. Why? Because it'll show that He'll have an end then. If He has an end, then we said God is azali. He has no end. Just as He's qadim, no beginning, He's also azali, He has no end. Okay? If you get confused with the terminology, I'll always translate them. Okay, so if I say no beginning, just take as no beginning. Okay? So it'll show that He'll have an end, and that can't be God, can it? That can't be God. Because God does not have an beginning, nor does He have an end. Okay. What other masla does this affect? Umar? Imkane kazib. Some people say that God can, or it's possible for God to lie. Yes? One of the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that He is truthful. Yeah, I think the verse comes as Man asdaqu min Allahi qila. Who is more truthful than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Who is more truthful than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So some people say that He can lie. But you have to understand that the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are not under His power. He uses His attributes with His will. But He can't change His attributes.
So them attributes that you said, like you can't lie, where are these taken from, these attributes?
The attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we say that they are a word called tawqifi. Tawqifi. Tawqif, waqaf, comes from waqaf. Yes? Suspended. What else can you translate it as? Dependent upon Sharia. Yes? They're suspended from Sharia, meaning we look into the Quran, whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said regarding His attributes, Qadir came, Ghafoor came, and so on and so forth. We look at that. And then the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. We can't make up names for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
So, give us an example if you don't mind. So, if Allah cannot lie, you say that. So
Yes.
How was that ruling you taken?
Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has described Himself as being truthful. Yes?
From that is clear cut. There's the opposite of
Yeah, yes, because another thing is God is perfect. Yes?
So truthful is a permanent state. So
Yes, permanent state.
there's no falsehood.
There's no falsehood.
There's no change in it.
There's no change in it. When he says he's truthful,
Everything that changes is new. So
that was what I was going to come to. So if we say that God can lie, when he's attributed himself with truthfulness, and then we say he can lie, then what will happen is that a change will come. A change will come in. Okay? And then there's various dalail in imkani kadhib. But people will use inna Allah ala kulli shay'in qadir. In shay'in, it refers to the whole of creation. What does it refer to? Whole of creation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's attributes are not creation, like we said in point 1 of this Aqidah. Yes? That his attributes are not creation. Go for it, Sidney.
There's a question for one of the brothers online. He said, just going back a step, Christians say that this means you are limiting God and what he can do. I think he's referring to when Allah lies.
This does not mean that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is limited, because we have to keep an eye on the that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has kamal, perfection. Yes? The Christians normally use this argument of can God create a stone which he can't lift? Yes? It's just an absurd argument. Yes? Why? Because really to do such a thing, okay, is an impossible thing. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is perfect and he is pure. Inna Allah tayyibun. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. Yes? He's pure and he loves pure. Wa yuhibbu tiba, one narration comes as. Now, when he is pure, then what it means is that he is pure for his strength, from his strength attaching to any ugly thing. Any ugly or impure thing. And one of those impure things is to make a stone which he can't lift. One of those impure things is what? For him to lie. Because it's an aib, is a fault. So his attributes, his strength is too pure for itself to attach to that. Yes? So this is why we say it's impossible. Because why? It'll affect him, because we'll say that he's meant to have perfection, and then what? From perfection he's gone into aib, astaghfirullah. And that's wrong. That is wrong. So this is why we say. So when the rightful translation of Inna Allah ala kulli shay'in qadir, indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all powerful over everything. Everything refers to creation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's attributes are not created. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's attributes are not created. And why? Because if he has power over his attributes, everything the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala associates with, that power changes it. That power changes it. Your sa, when his qudra attaches with his will, yes, his strength and his will, when they couple together and he decides to make you stand, then you stand. Yes? But what happens to you? You changed. You had a new beginning. Yes? After every tawbah there's a new beginning. Yes? Every time you repent there's a new beginning. It's a new thing, isn't it? New life. Yes? Move house and I'm starting a new life. Yes? There's always a new life. You change, that's why. Now if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's qudra had power over his own attributes, then his attributes would change. And then his attributes would not be uncreated, they would be created. And then there's a beginning and there's an end. But then his attributes are not are his essence. Okay? Are his essence, then his essence has to be created as well. Then we don't have a God. Then we're stuck. That's a bit of logic for you. But anyway, I've written a whole risala on this. If you can read Arabic, it's out there somewhere. Okay? It's only a small risala. I wrote it a long time ago. I was only a young chap at the time. I think it was roughly about just before I got married. I wrote it. Yes, it was a little thesis I wrote in Arabic, just because I had a debate with a certain scholar. on Imkani Kazib, and then after that I wrote it. It's actually a question that is Imkani Kazib, to believe that God can lie, is it a Aqidah issue or is it just a fiqh issue? Yes? And then it was explained that it is an Aqidah issue in that. It's only a couple of pages though. It's out there somewhere. I think I posted it on my Facebook page, but just pictures of it. I lost the actual file of it, so it needs to be retyped. The actual file which I typed it on, in those days we used to have a Urdu image, yes? It was typed on that, and then obviously I think that's gone out of use now. Another Aqidah number 7. Other than the attributes and the essence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, everything else has a beginning and is created. Easy way to say, is created. When we say something is created, it has a beginning. What that means is that there wasn't, then there was. Yes? Kun, fayakun. Yes? When he said be, then the world was created. That's when we were created. So there was nothing, and then there was something. That something, what we're calling something, that's created. That is created. Easy way to understand this is the definition of al-alam. Al-alam. Alam is the Urdu word as well, isn't it? Yes? Sara alam. Yes? Pure alam mein. We say these words, don't we? Alam, what does it mean? World, universe. Yes? What's the definition of universe? Anybody know? It's an easy definition.
All of creation.
Everything but Allah. Easy definition. Alam, universe, is everything but Allah. Nice easy definition, isn't it? That's how we define in Islam universe. The universe is everything but Allah. Other than Allah, everything else is created. Yes? Allah's the only one that is not created. So that means His attributes and His essence are not created. But everything else, whatever you can think of other than Allah, is created. If there's dragons in the world, then they are created as well. Yes? If there's life on Mars, they're created as well. Yes? What else is there? What do you call those horses? I forgot what they're called. Unicorns. Then they are created as well. Yes? And if they don't exist, but you have an image of it, that's created at the least. Yes? I mean, if they don't really exist in physical form, but then there is an image in your head, that image is created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes? Everything's created. Whatever you can think of in this world, whatever you see, whatever you hear, every single thing, yes, is created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All of the universe is creation except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Simple definition to understand this Aqidah, that other than the attributes and the essence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, everything else is created. Aqidah number 8. The person who says that the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are created or they have a beginning. They have a beginning. What was the opposite of Qadim? Does anybody remember? What was it? Hadith. Hadith. Okay. Opposite of Qadim was Hadith. Yes? Hadith meant with beginning. Qadim means no beginning. Hadith means with beginning. So if somebody says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's attributes are created, every created thing has a beginning. So just an explanation of that. That if somebody says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's attributes are created or have beginning, then this person is out of the fold of Islam. Out of the fold of Islam.
because this is further line, you have to know this knowledge. A person who doesn't know this knowledge and utters such words would be automatically out for this.
Not necessarily. It depends on who it is. Yes. Don't fall into this trap of Facebook fatwas. Okay.
I'm not going to go on,
Yeah.
start doing fatwa.
No, it's just this trap that you get this image that the deen's like that you see a lot of people that they hear a video and straight through this guy's kafir. Yes, don't do that. Within the matters of takfir, we have a big principle called luzum and iltizam. Luzum and iltizam. Luzum means that a person could make a statement and that statement leads towards kufr or is kufr in itself. It makes kufr necessary, disbelief necessary. But then when you talk to the person, he really has no idea what you just said. Like you see a lot of people singing songs these days, Indian songs, and they have a lot of kufriyat in them. Yes, a lot of kufriyat in them. Now what happens with that is that they don't know what they're saying sometimes, but when you explain it to them and they're like, astaghfirullah, tawbah, tawbah, they start touching the ears. Don't know where that came from though. Okay? It's actually a Hindu thing, tell you the truth. It's a Hindu thing. The Hindus do that. Okay? The Hindus have a form of repentance, and that's touching the ears and touching the feet. Okay? They do that. It's not amongst the Muslims. Okay? There's no such thing. Grabbing, what does it mean? The second stage is iltizam. After you've spoken to this person, he sticks to it. After you explain to him, you've shown him the Quran, you've shown him the hadith of the Prophet, you've shown him what the ulama have said, you've shown him everything, but he sticks to his guns and says, I still believe this. That's when, not you, but the ulama will put a fatwa on him. Okay?
You find it a lot where people are debates, and you see it on Facebook, people is going.
This is what we're saying, that happens, but that's what I said, when you see it on the internet and whatever, it's not right. Yeah? Just blindly putting fatwa on somebody, it's not right. Okay? Because there can be a lot of technicalities. There are many issues that ulama have spoken on and then they made mistakes, but then they said we don't have these beliefs. Yeah? So you have to go stage by stage. You can't just do a blind takfir of somebody and say, this guy's kafir, just because you've heard a YouTube video which was posted maybe in 2005 sometime, yes, and you've seen it in 2017. A lot of years in between, aren't there? Anything could have happened. Ulama have met this person, yes, spoken to him, asked him what's going on. He might have done tawbah, and then there's you writing a new fatwa on him. Yes, when 20 dozen ulama have said this person is still a Muslim because he repented. Yes, so you have to look at things. That's another issue in itself, if videos are evidence within Islam. That's another issue. We'll talk about that in fiqh. Okay. Aqidah number 9. In the universe, if someone calls anything qadim, that it has a beginning, if somebody says that within this universe there is one thing or many things that have no beginning, call them qadim, this person is out of the fold of Islam as well. Why? Because there's only one being who has no beginning. Who's that? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything else is, alam is created, and to be created is a sign that something, they have a beginning. Similarly, same part of this, that if a person doubts something being created, if you have a doubt that this thing is created, even the doubt takes you out of the fold of Islam. Even the doubt, yes, even the doubt. The next Aqidah point is kind of simple. Surah Ikhlas. Yes. Surah Ikhlas. Number 10, yes. Aqidah number 10 is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not the father of anyone. Nor does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have a wife or take a wife. And whoever believes these kind of things is out of the fold of Islam. That was the Aqidah. There are sometimes other things that we can mention. There are certain ulama who wrote against these points and try to prove the contrary to that, but we won't go into that inshallah. We'll carry on after namaz inshallah. I think the hall downstairs might be occupied, so you might have to pray upstairs inshallah.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah.
So Aqidah number 10 was that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not beget, does not begotten, and whoever says this, then that person is out of the fold of Islam. Yes. He's not in need of anything, is he? Then why would he need a father? Yes. Why would he need a wife? Why would he need a son? All of these things come under need. So then what will happen is the person who places this or says is even possible or even doubts this Aqidah is out of the fold of Islam. Aqidah number 11. Aqidah number 11. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Hayy. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Hayy. What's Hayy? No? What is it? 2 seconds. All existing, yes. Everlasting, ever existing, ever living. Yes, Hayy. Some people do zikr of it. Hayyun. Okay. Ever living. That he himself is living. He himself is living. As in nobody granted him life. He's always been. Another meaning of it is that the life of every single thing is in the hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Have you had a look at the Urdu? No? Keep a note of this then. और सब की जिंदगी उसके हाथ में है. That's for Umar.
In your dars in Nizam, do you teach Urdu as well?
I teach certain books in Urdu, certain Arabic books which they memorize, maybe for the first year, but it's not an actual Urdu syllabus, so to speak. Yeah? So they're learning Arabic, but they just memorize it in Urdu. Yeah? So they learn Urdu that way. That's how I learn Urdu myself. Keep an eye on that. Yeah, the translation. A lot of people say that you cannot translate it as hand. He's doing it as hand. Yes. One of the meanings of Hayy is that he himself, first of all, is that he's ever living himself. Nobody created Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Another meaning is that the life of every single person is controlled by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That he decides when to give life to something and he decides when to end the life and take it away. Aqidah number 12. Allah is powerful over every possible thing. Every possible thing. So does that make sense? Every possible thing. word possible is important here. This is what I told you before. Inna Allaha ala kulli shay'in qadir. Shay'in here, thing, refers to every possible thing, not just everything. Why? Let's just look at that. Let's go a bit of detail in it. It's nice, easy detail. Let's say we say that God is also powerful over impossible things. God is powerful over impossible things. That's a sentence we made. That He is powerful over or even impossible things. So now He has the power over impossible things. Now let's move forward. Now we say, can God bring the impossible into creation? You'll have to say yes, because He's got power over it. That's your statement, isn't it? That He has power over impossible. So one of those things is that He can bring it into creation. But as soon as it comes into existence and creation, that's a sign that it was possible. So now the impossible became possible. Doesn't that contradict? Nothing is impossible for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala except those things that we mentioned. And that is attributes. So when we said alam, creation, and anything that can come into creation, that is all under the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anything that cannot come into creation, that is impossible. And every impossible is impure. Every impossible is impure, is a defect. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is free of defects and faults. He is perfect, isn't He? You describe Him with all perfect attributes. Yes? So it would affect that then, wouldn't it? So every possible thing is under the strength of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay. Look, one thing is God to come into His creation. Is it possible or impossible? It's impossible, isn't it, for God to come into His creation? Because to come into creation, He has to have form. He has to have form, as in mass. It has to be, what do you call it? Two things join. Can't remember the word, it starts with a C. Composed, if you like. Yes? Yes? He has to be composed, murakkab. Yes, a compound, do you call it a compound? Yes? At the minimum, two things to come together. Everything that's possible is under the strength of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything that's possible. Okay? And everything impossible is outside of the strength of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what happened is that the impossible will become possible. So we're looking at that if God came into His creation, He has to be a physical thing then. That's impossible for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because where does His tawheed rest then? At the minimum, to make a compound, to make a body, you need the minimum of two molecules, if you want to call it that. Yes, or two atoms. A pair of neutrons and protons. Go even smaller if you like, yeah? Two particles of the God particle, yes? Or dark matter. Go even smaller. So the minimum is that you need two, yes? To make that body. Once you get two, it's a body now. You see it. Now the thing is, as soon as there's two, where's tawheed? God can be split now. There's no tawheed. So that's a defect, isn't it? That's why God doesn't come into His creation. But the truth is impossible in itself. It's impossible in itself. Because God is free of His creation. God does not enter His creation. Yes? When sometimes our elders say that God is everywhere, it's a metaphorical meaning, okay? It's not a physical meaning that God is everywhere. Yes? And when they say that I see God everywhere, it doesn't mean that they literally see God somewhere. They mean that we see the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
So there's a lot of people that misunderstand, you know, the hadith of the Prophet said that Allah, at the last part of the night, Allah lowers himself to the lowest heaven and speaks.
They are from we call this mutashabihat. Yes, and the mutashabih verses that the meaning is slightly unclear to us, that how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala descends. So some ulama do a thing called ta'wil. They interpret the hadith by saying that the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala descends. Another interpretation is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is closer to his creation, as in the creation is closer to him in terms of acceptance. Yes? So any du'as you make, they are swiftly accepted in those nights. Yes, it happens every night.
Yeah.
Yes, one hadith is for the Laylatul Qadr, isn't it? For Nisf Sha'ban as well, it comes, I believe. But in another hadith is kind of general, that it happens for the last portion of the night, Tahajjud. Number 13 is similar to what we just said, but just listen to it. It might confuse you a little, but just listen to it. It's more or less what we have repeated. So the thing that is impossible, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is free of it. We said that, didn't we? That the thing that is impossible, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is free of it. Free from what? That it comes under his strength. That his strength is so pure that it cannot attach with this. Why? Because muhal is that thing, or impossible is that thing which cannot exist. That is one of the meanings. But if it comes under the strength of, if this impossible comes under the strength of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what will that strength make it? Make it possible. Yes? It doesn't have to exist, but then it would make it possible. Then, see, just opposite then, isn't it? Muhal is impossible. Yeah. Muhal is impossible. Mumkin is possible, the opposite of muhal. So when it comes under the strength of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then it's no longer impossible, it's possible. But then again, this is like a paradox, isn't it? You started off with something and then you ended with something else. Started off with something and then it ended up as something else. And the fault, where did the fault come from? The fault came from what you imagined was wrong. You said that the impossible was, you said the impossible was under the strength of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But then one thing now is impossible, starting off with, impossible to end with. That can't happen then, can it? So the reason for the fault is, this contradiction has happened. Why? Because we started off with a wrong idea, wrong theory, yes? Wrong Aqidah. So that's that. We've done this in something that we've been speaking about. That's that. We'll do one more and then we'll end on we'll start on the 15th next time. Aqidah number 14. Anything that's under the strength of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's everything that's possible. I answered it before. It's not necessary that it exists. It's okay, that's slight bit of detail. Yeah? There's lots of things, aren't there? Who hasn't got children? You haven't got children. But it's possible for you to have children, isn't it? Yes? So, inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make them ulama and awliya of this religion when you do get married. Inshallah. It's possible, isn't it? But do they exist? They don't exist, do they? So don't get this idea that anything that is under the strength of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has to exist. Yes? It's not just with the strength of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is tasawwuf for you as well. It's not just with the strength of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that things just exist. Why? Because we call this tarjih bila murajjih. It's a hard word. Just look at it this way, that nothing comes with chances. Nothing is a coincidence. Yes? everything is chosen, isn't it? Everything is chosen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a divine plan. So He chose it. Yes? It's not just coincidence that, the strength just made it. No. You have to attach the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So yeah, all possible things come under the strength of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But it's actually, it doesn't have to happen like this. Yes, obviously we're just breaking it all down, aren't we? Yes. Look at yourself, when you want to do something, you just do it, don't you? You don't break it down in like a 20-minute process and say, now I'm doing it. Yes, this is my strength here, this is my will. No, it just happens, doesn't it? Yes, but we're breaking it down for you to understand. Yes, that is not a coincidence. Rather, what happens? Everything that's possible is under the strength of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala attaches to that possible thing. When He decides to create it, that's when it comes into creation, doesn't it? You want to drink water, but it's there, I'll drink it in a bit. When the teacher looks the other way, that's when I'll drink it. Yes, it's an idea, and then you actually do it. Your will comes and you pick up the glass and you drink the water. Okay? I was finding a break. So that's the Aqidah. It's just a fine little point that we sometimes miss, but it's good to know these things as well. Yeah? If you open it up, there's a lot of mantiq and a lot of Aqidah involved, kalam involved in how this happens. Yes, go for it.
Did you put tarjih bila
Tarjih bila
mutarjih?
murajjih. Yes. Preference without a thing giving preference. Yes. Preference.
Where does the issue of free will come from then? So you say that nothing happens without the will.
We're gonna discuss that inshallah ta'ala. Free will is part of the belief of the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Okay? And we are going to go into certain sects that believe that we don't have free will. Easy way to remember is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us free will for us to do anything. Yes? And that is that first of all He created that free will inside us, and then He created the strength for us to use the free will, and then whatever we decide with our free will, He creates that as well. Yes? But you have to understand is that is kind of a deep point, and that is that the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can never go against the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes? The creation can never go against the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So whatever's in His knowledge has to be in creation. Whatever's in His knowledge. We're going to talk about this in taqdeer. Yes? And in the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is that you have free will. You have free will to make your own choices. But He already knows what you're going to do. It's like a contract, isn't it? One of the examples I normally give, and we'll give it later on as well, that you have a boy or a girl, let's pick one, maybe a boy. And it's his birthday. You have two bags, gift bags. One's blue and one's pink. You put all his gifts in the blue bag. Yes? And then you put in front of him and say, choose a bag. Yes? What do you think he'll choose? You already know what he chose because you put all the gifts in the blue bag. He's not going to choose pink, is he? Yes? They make that difference, don't they? Yes? Blue is for boys, pink is for girls. It generally happens. So you already know, don't you? So in your knowledge, you already know that he's going to choose the blue bag. That's why you put all the toys in the blue bag. Yes? Then you put him in front of him. He chose the blue bag. He gets all the toys. It's his birthday. He enjoys. Yes? Without giving similarity with the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because there's lots of faults in this one. Okay? But with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is that in His knowledge there's free will there. That's the blue bag. It's there. Yes? And all your blessings are within that free will. All your gifts are within that free will. Because He already knows that He's given you free will, and with that free will, you're going to make this choice. Right or wrong. Doesn't matter. Right or wrong. Yes? And what will happen after that, He already knows. But in that knowledge is that you have free will. Does that make sense? It's like a contract. Within a contract, there's a thing. You can't change it, can you? It's there. You signed it. It's there. Yeah, it's a small print. You can't do anything. Yes, it's there now. In the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's there. Yes. So we're not forced to do anything as well. We have that free will of making our own choice. This is why there's reward and then there's punishment. So if you take that free will out, then there's no point of having this reward system, is there? Okay. But we'll talk about that in more detail when we get to it, inshaAllah ta'ala. Okay. Any questions on Aqidah?
Before you move on, you mentioned Aristotle a couple of times now. So I did a bit of Googling last week, and there's Ibn Sina who also, I believe, did not oppose Aristotle.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that, they oppose Aristotle in his philosophy. Yes, when I mention Aristotle, I'm talking about his logic.
His logic.
Yeah, it's slightly different. Yeah.
Do you recommend any books on his logic that are English print?
There are a lot of books, but I would suggest you read Modern Logic. Yes, just look up Modern Logic, and generally the basis of it is those things. They do differ in a lot of things, but you will understand a lot from it.
Just to go back to lying, could you say that lying obviously is to deceive or to conceal something?
Yes.
So could you say that's just relative to human beings, because we can't conceal anything to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
Yes.
So, like, the act of concealing is called lying, but there's no such thing that exists called lying.
Yeah, that's right. It's a thing that's ma'doom, we call it. It's non-existence, okay? But it does exist in a way that it's an action. Yes.
But lying is the word to...
As in, the phrase that you say, yes, the sentence that you said, that Zaid is here, but Zaid's not here. That sentence in itself is a lie. Yes? So yeah, there are certain aspects of it which is there to conceal, yes, it's there to deceive, yes, but then there are parts as well which do exist as well, and that's that sentence. But if you want to just sum it all up, lying is a fault, whichever way you look at it. Yes, lying is a...
Like, is it relative to... Could you say it's relative to human beings? Because
yeah,
when we lie, like...
that's relative to human being. This is why, because look, if you close it up as that, it's a fault.
Yeah.
Yes? In a human being, it's seen as a fault. And when it's seen as a fault in human beings, then how can God carry that attribute? When the lower being is calling it a fault, and we blame a person who lies. Yes? The sisters always blame the husbands. Yeah? So, it's... When we deem it to be a fault, then how can God be attributed with it? And we look at it later on as well, because we said the Anbiya alayhimu salatu wasalam are infallible. Yes, that they can't sin. When the Anbiya can't sin, and one of the sins is lying. Lying is a major sin, isn't it? La'natullahi alal qazibin. The curse of Allah be upon the liars. Yes? So then how can we describe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with such a thing? That make sense? Go for it.
With the essence of Allah, we can't fathom anything. You know how many of the awliya, they reach a spiritual state and they, some of them say, speak to Allah and they hear words like a lot of people say.
The awliya kiram don't speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as in how the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam spoke to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or how Sayyidina Musa ala nabina wal salam, all the Anbiya alayhimu salatu wasalam spoke to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They don't mean it in that way. Or seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it'll come later on again. We're going to do a whole section on that as well, of seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One of the Aqidahs is that only the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has seen. But what do the awliya mean that they have seen Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? It's just being in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but they don't mean with the physical eyes. Yes, one is the mushahada, but that just means that they're in the courtyard of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, and sometimes they'll say that we have seen Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and it's in a dream. Yes, and dreams is possible for awliya, like Imam Shafi is known to have seen Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala 100 times in his dream. Yes, similar with Imam Hanifa and various other Imams. Okay, this can take place, but with the naked eye, other than the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, nobody else. But we're going to do a whole section on that, inshallah. Yes.
One last question. Point number 10 on Aqidah, Allah is not in need of father, mother,
Yes.
children, so on and so forth. People could argue, then, why would Allah Ta'ala have a need for a messenger? Could you just explain a bit more on that? Why?
One of the things of sending a message is that you have to, would you call it akin? To be familiar with who's bringing the message. Yes. If a jinn came in right now, you'd run a mile. Would you take his message? Hmm? If you're like me, then you would take his message, but majority of the time, what would happen? Then you run a mile. Yes.
I'll be too curious to.
If that door opened, flying open, what would happen? And it's this light start going off, and you start hearing screaming sounds. Yes. Or a jinn is occupying a brother. Yes, controlling him. Yes. What would happen? We run a mile, wouldn't we? Yes. Or if an angel directly came to us, then would we be able to handle that? The power? Yes. We wouldn't, would we? Plus, we won't have that connection with that angel. Okay? So that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even though He can do whatever He likes, yes, even though He can create however He likes, and He can make everybody Muslim if He wants, yes, but He chose this. This is in His knowledge, yes, and the way He wanted to send it, He wanted to send His Quran was through the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or the way He wanted to send guidance to people was through messengers. But one of the hikmahs was that you can talk to a messenger, because all Anbiya alayhimu salatu wasalam are human. We'll talk on that later on as well. Okay? All Anbiya alayhimu salatu wasalam are human. But we'll talk about that later on. So that's why. Yes? That's why it would happen. That's one of the hikmahs, okay, behind it. Okay? There are various other reasons. That's the strength as well. Sayyidina Musa wanting a glimpse on the mountain breaking, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying that if this Quran was revealed upon a mountain, it will shatter into pieces. Yes? Now you have to consider that as well, that if you got weak people, then if God talked to them directly. Yeah? Another thing is, if you look at the state of Christians today, then every single one of them is getting revelation. Yes? God inspired me to do this. And you'll have, that's how the rest of the Bible was written, wasn't it? Yes? God inspired John to write whatever, Paul to write whatever. Yes? And all these, we don't make fun of the disciples of Sayyidina Isa. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed the real disciples, yes, but those who, yes. So, but these people who wrote these, okay, maybe Paul was the right disciple, but maybe later people had distorted some of these things. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that. But the reason for it was that God told them to do it. Yes? If that happened directly, if as Muslims we believe that God would just guide people directly, yes, then there would be mayhem. Yes? There would be mayhem. Okay? And sister sign, any questions? Huh? Inshallah. Sisters will have a degree at the end of this. Inshallah. We move on to fiqh, inshallah.
Are you implying that we're not smart enough to get?
Did we finished the thing, didn't we? The do's and the don'ts. Yeah. Yeah, we did them all. We'll start Nuri that today, inshallah, from the start of it. A mujtahid is a person, somebody asked this question, a mujtahid is a person who can derive from Quran and Hadith directly. Yeah, that's a person who is a mujtahid. He is a man has principles, and he can directly derive from Quran and Hadith. That person is a mujtahid. Then you have different levels of ijtihad. We don't need to go into that as of yet. Yes, but there are many levels of ijtihad. We're gonna. What's that? Sorry.
For a mujtahid, would it be, can they still follow an imam, or do they have to then
A mujtahid mutlaq, really, he follows his own decision. But with his own choosing, he can still follow an imam. Yes? Follow an imam. We always start from Kitabut Tahara. Kitabut Tahara, the book of cleanliness, purity. Now, why do we start with the book of purity? Because all types of worship depend upon purity, don't they? Either in terms of it being necessary or in terms of it at the least being recommended. One way or another is there, isn't it? Yes? Salawat is ibadah, isn't it? But is recommended to be in a state of wuzu for it, but it's still there. So tahara. But tahara, we cleanse ourselves with what thing? Water. So we need to know our waters. You might not have a use for this in this country, but it's good to know. Types of waters. Water that you can use to cleanse yourself with, they are 7 types. How many? 7 types.
7 types of water we can use?
7 types of water you can use in their natural form. In the natural form, but we're going to tell you these 7, if they're found in the natural form, then you can use them to do wuzu with, do ghusl with, wash your dishes with, brothers. Okay. First one is rainwater. So if you got rainwater, then it's good enough. You can do wuzu with it. There is seawater. That's the number 2. Seawater, number 2. So if you happen to be near the sea, then you can just do wuzu with it. Number 3, river water. I wouldn't advise the London rivers.
Is that any river?
Any river, yes, any river. Even the London ones. It's just not advised. So any river, you can use its water. Yes.
What if it's got dirt?
Let's make a difference between dirt and impurity. Yes. Soil is not impure, is it? Yes. Soil, sand, things like this, they're not impure. But if there's impurities in there, yeah, like excrement, urine, yes, then that will make a difference. We're going to talk about that later on. Okay. But if it's in its natural form, then it's fine. I wouldn't advise India's rivers as well. I read an article somewhere, or rather, I think, an article, Mustafa, where they release so much chemicals into the river that. And those rivers are going through busy cities, and like the foaming bubble baths that you have, yes, it's covering that, all the buildings around that river, yes. But that foam is toxic in itself, and people are. It looks like snow. That's how big it is. Yes, it looks like snow, and people are walking through it and they're living their life, but they get diseases from that. So if there's something like that, obviously that's not its natural form now, is it? That was the example. That's not its natural form, then obviously you won't use it then. Water, this might be, there might be 2 in this, okay? What number are we at? 4? Yeah, sorry, that's next one. Number 4 is well water. Okay, well water. Ma'ul bi'ri. Well water. If you got a well at home, then you can do wuzu from it. Masjid Hanafiya has a well, doesn't it? Masjid Hanafiya has a well. If you drink his water, you'll see that it's slightly salty. It's a well within the masjid, yes, and all the water supply comes from that one well. Yes. And Yusufatul Islam. Yes, alhamdulillah. That powers that. So the wuzu that you do in those two masjids is from well water.
So did they get the pipes to go into a well?
Yeah, they dug the well and then they just put the motor or whatever they have, the system that they have, and they have motors in Pakistan, don't they? They'll have something like that. The engineers will know, inshallah. So well water. Number 5 and number 6, you can do this together, is water which is melted from either snow or hailstone or ice. They're all the same. They're all two together. Hailstone and ice can be the same. And then snow separately. Yes?
Is that 5 and 6 together?
That's 5 and 6 together. So if you're on Mount Everest, like Sidi Naveed was, long time ago, you can do wuzu by melting the snow. It's not advisable. It's not advisable. We'll tell you that you can maybe do tayammum or something, carry a rock with you or something, and then you can do tayammum. Last one, number 7, is ma'ul ayn. I gave you a translation of ayn last time I took you off the board. Ayn, what was ayn? Fountain, yes? Okay. What meaning was fountain? He is mountain, yes? Not eye, not water of the eye, yes? That you start saying that, my tears are very pure, that you can do wuzu with them. Okay, they're not that. This is natural fountain. You get natural springs, don't you? Natural fountains and natural springs. I think in Haragay you have some, don't you? Yes. If you have something like that, then you can do wuzu directly from them. Yes. But now these waters, we can split them into another 5 categories. These are categories now. This was types of water. Now we're going to the category of water. Meaning, how can we class these waters when something's happened to them? Yeah? Because we don't always find water in its natural state, do we? Yes? So now we can categorize water into 5 categories. Get used to these words as well. So the first one is tahir, mutahhir. Get used to these words. It's good to know them sometimes. They're going to keep coming anyway. Tahir you should know, don't you? A lot of brothers call tahir. Mutahhir. It means cleansed, pure and purifies. Pure and purifies. Tahir is pure. Mutahhir is purifies. That's the first category. Now what does that mean? What does that mean? This means that the water in itself is pure. I.e., if it goes on your clothes, it won't affect the purity of your clothes. And it's mutahhir, that if you make wuzu with it, then your wuzu is also done. And it's not makruh to use. Tahir, mutahhir. What's that? That's natural water then, isn't it? Those 7 types that we did, all of them in the natural form come under this first category. Come under this first category.
What was the first category?
Tahir, mutahhir. Tahir, mutahhir. It's pure and it purifies. Purifies means that you can do wuzu with it and bring you into a state of purity. Number 2, It's same thing but with the addition, and that is tahir, mutahhir, makruh. So you got that. That's number one. Number two would be tahir, mutahhir, and then makruh. Okay, tahir, mutahhir, makruh. So we know what tahir means now, don't we? What does tahir mean? Pure. Mutahhir, purifies. Makruh, disliked. Makruh means disliked. And here we're talking about makruh tanzihi. What are we talking about? Makruh tanzihi. We gave you definitions, didn't we? Yeah, shouldn't look confused. Makruh tanzihi, the minor dislike. And makruh tahrimi is the big one. Then you had isa'a. Then we had makruh tanzihi. And we said it's not even a sin. The example of this is you got water, small amount of water, like in a bucket or a cup or a bottle, and then a cat drinks from it. Cat drinking from your water that you've put down for wuzu, that makes that water tahir, mutahhir, and makruh when there's better water for you to use. It's makruh when there's better water for you to use. Meaning you know there's more water, but then you still use this water which the cat drank. Okay. Cats are really meant to be impure. But the Prophet ﷺ gave us leave in that regards, because they keep coming in and out of the house. Yes? So it eats rats, doesn't it? It eats mice and things like this. So it should, in principle, it should be impure. But the Prophet ﷺ said, call it tawaf, as in it goes in and out of the house a lot. For that reason, we lower the command then. Yes? As in, you don't have to rewash all your dishes and things like this. It is in certain cases like this, that the water will become impure.
So what if you keep it as a pet or something like that?
You can keep a cat as a pet.
What if it's a house cat?
Same thing.
Are you sure?
Same thing.
My
Yeah.
cat's doing well.
It's in the nature, isn't it? Regardless of if you feel that it doesn't. Yes? Even if it doesn't go out, it's in its nature. Yes? And you can't be sure of that. Yes? It's like saying a lion's vegetarian. You can be sure of it all day. So, a cat drinking is that. Cats are jais to keep. Sayyidina Abu Hurairah. Sayyidina Abu. How does Abu Hurairah translate? Why would you call him a father of kittens for? If you want to translate as the cat one, the one with the cats. Yeah. Abu here doesn't mean father. It just doesn't make sense. How did he become the father? Yes. Abu sometimes comes in the meaning of Zu. Yes. Zul Jalali wal Ikram. Yes. The one with majesty. So here, Abu here means the one with the cats, because he used to like kittens and cats, and the Arabs used to have long sleeves. Yes, and he used to hide sleeves in his, his cats in his sleeves. Okay. And that's why the Prophet then called him Abu Hurairah. Hurairah is kittens, not cats as well. Hurairah are kittens. Hira is a cat. Okay. Then third one is tahir ghair mutahhir. Tahir ghair mutahhir. Tahir ghair mutahhir. You know, the word ghair has loads of meanings in the Arabic language, and it changes. Here means no. Okay? That is pure, and it does not purify. It does not purify. So what does that mean? It means that the water is pure enough that if it goes on your clothes, it does not make your clothes impure. It does not make your clothes impure. But that water, you can't use it to do wuzu with. It can't purify you. Yes? So if it goes on your clothes, it's fine. It won't make your clothes impure. But you can't use that same water to do wuzu with. Yes? Water that you used to do wuzu with. Yes? So let's just say that you're doing wuzu and there's a bowl underneath, and the water that you're doing wuzu with is now coming off your hands, your limbs, and falling into a separate bowl. The water that gathers within that separate bowl is water which is cleaning itself, but you can't do wuzu with it again. You just don't wuzu with it. It's used water, we call this. Get used to that term as well. Used water. Ma musta'mal. Musta'mal is an Urdu word as well. Istimal. Yes? Used. Yes? Yeah. But you know, with this, there's a condition that the water that you use, it has to be used on the intention of worship. You do wuzu to read namaz, don't you? So there's an intention of worship, isn't there? So here, meaning you're not just going to be you washing your dishes or you just washing your hands, it won't become used water that way. It's when you're actually doing wuzu for the sake of namaz or something like this. Okay? Or, for the sake of wuzu, or you do wuzu upon wuzu. Yes? The water that separates away from your body. So used water, the definition of used water is that you have the intention of doing wuzu. Now once you washed your hands, for example, the water that separates away from your body, that becomes used water. Used water is tahir, is clean, but ghair mutahhir, that it can't be used to purify you. You can't redo wuzu. You can't, gather that water and then give it to the next man and say, do wuzu with it. It can't happen. He won't have wuzu. Okay. So that's one example of this. Okay. But I'll tell you something here. There's 3 madhabs in the Hanafi madhab regarding this. According to Imam Abu Hanifa, used water. Yes? Used water, because in essence we're just talking about used water. We're saying used water is pure, but it does not purify. According to Imam Abu Hanifa, it's najasat-e mughallaza. What is it? Major impurity. Used water, like the water that you do wuzu with, then separates away from your body, which goes into the gutter normally. That water, according to Imam Abu Hanifa, is major impurity, i.e. he's made it akin to things like urine and alcohol. Yes? According to Imam Abu Yusuf, if I'm correct, it's najasat-e khafifa. Najasat-e khafifa, light impurity, or the minor impurity. What that means is that it's still an impurity though, isn't it? Yes? Still impurity. So in both of these mazhabs, according to Imam Abu Hanifa and according to Imam Abu Yusuf, with their conditions, the amount of water that went onto your clothes and such, if it goes onto your clothes, it will make your clothes impure. But according to Imam Muhammad rahimahullah, he said that it is pure, but it does not purify. This is why I might see some Turkish ulama wearing aprons when they do wuzu. There are certain masjids in Turkey, when you go to them, from what I've heard, you see aprons in the wuzu khana. So you wear an apron and that's when you make wuzu. Because they believe that if it goes on you, it's impure.
So if you had a bucket of water and you use it to wash your hands in it, so does that now become...
No, remember we said it has to, if you're just washing your hands just
for wuzu,
then it becomes impure. So that water that goes in...
You have to pour it out the bucket.
No, and what we're talking about is you got one bucket, lota, person's holding a lota and you're washing your hands and then the water's falling down. Okay? Yeah, that's a different, yeah, we'll tell you that, what will happen with that, okay? But according to this, still pure, isn't it? It's still pure, okay?
What if you did wuzu in a river and that water went back?
No, that doesn't matter. We'll tell you that. We'll come to that in a minute. They're going to come, inshaAllah ta'ala. So this was pure, impure. So we follow Imam Muhammad's mazhab here. That it is pure. That if while doing wuzu, your clothes get wet, don't they? So it's pure. It's not impure. But you can't purify yourselves. Okay.
How do we decide which imam to follow?
That's the mufti's job. Yes? That's a side which you don't see. When you read books and when you hear ulama, that's the level of work which you don't see, and you think that the Maulvis are lazy. Yes? He just read a book and he just mentioned it. The truth is, for us to give you a fatwa, there is a whole load of work behind it. Yeah? Even though like the work that we do where we copy and paste, there's still some work to do. You have to know those books to do copy and paste. Yes? You have to know the time that they went through. And this is why you see a lot of problems as well, that people will just misquote ulama. One of the most, I feel anyway, one of the most or the biggest imam to be misquoted in this day and age is Imam Ahmad Rada Khan. In a lot of masail, in a lot of matters, because people just blindly quote. They won't look at what the question was, what the answer was, and why did he answer in that way, what was the reason for him to answer in that way. They won't consider all of these things. They won't consider the time he came from as well. Yes. So there's a lot of things like this. So there's a lot of work behind the scenes. Yes, you might go into Essential Islam and see a small little fatwa. Yes, but you have to understand that sometimes we'll answer in a yes or a no, or we might add a line, and I might add an ayat. Yes, but it could be that the person who's answered that question has done 10 years of studies just to write 2 lines. We just listened to Shaykh Muhammad, and Shaykh Muhammad said that for Imam Shafi to find ijma in the Quran, he read the Quran 50 times. And after 50 times he still didn't have it, still didn't find it, but then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made him think about it in his brain. The verse came in his mind, even though he had read the Quran 50 times. Meaning he read the verse, it didn't come to him. Yes? And then what happened? It just came in his head, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him it, and then he realized, oh, I can prove ijma from such and such thing. Yes? So it happens, it's a lot of hard work, isn't it? 50 times the Quran. We barely finish the Quran once a year.
To know that it's pure but not purifying.
Yes, that's the main thing, yes. Pure, but it doesn't purify. But let's see how do we make that restriction that the brother mentioned. We have a limit, and that's 10 by 10. 10 by 10 meters or half a meter. Roughly, we call it zira. Zira is from your fingertip to your elbow, or including your elbow. We class that as an arm's length, if you like, or half a meter. So 10 by 10 in all directions. Yes. If it's anything smaller than 10 by 10, yes, and then water falls, used water becomes the majority of that water, then that becomes used water. So if you got a bucket of water and you need to do farz ghusl, yes, from major impurity, and what you do is you straight away put your hands in the bucket. Yes, that water in that bucket is now all used water. Okay, hence why the Prophet ﷺ said that wash your hands before you enter your hand into the bucket. The Prophet said when you wake up and you want to make wuzu, then wash your hands separately first and then put your hand into the bucket of water. Because now those hands are washed, aren't they? Yeah? And the 1 or 2 drops don't matter. We'll talk about that later on as well. How water gets overcome. How water gets overcome. We use taps, but sometimes people have butts. Yes? And that can be, or bubble butts. That can be a problem. Yeah? So, if you look deep, you can still understand where it might affect you.
Can you repeat the bit about 10 by 10? I didn't.
We're going to come back to that, inshallah. Yeah? Let's just go over the 5, because there is a section in the middle which talks about that. We'll do all 5 just to make life easy for us. Number 4. The last one, isn't it? No, sorry, the second last one. Number 4 is impure water. Najas, we call it. Najas, impure. najas. From najasat, if you've heard that word before. Najasat, najas. Impure, like one of the examples of it is remember we're talking about small amount of water here. I was going to answer that question with 10 by 10. If anything smaller than 10 by 10, if these things happen to it, then it becomes impure as well. Or if it's the previous category, then it becomes mutahhir in the majority. And if it's a small amount, and if this happens to it, okay, like a pig falling into a small amount of water, or putting his mouth into a small amount of water, it'll make the water all impure. Okay, why? Because the pig, in and out, everything about it is impure. Not just his meat, even his bones. People have some different ideas that gelatin sometimes is taken from the bone and not the meat itself. And yeah, if it's a pig, it's haram. Okay. So then it becomes. But if it's a river, that's greater than 10 by 10, isn't it? Yes, greater than 10 by 10. You can get 1,000 pigs walking straight through, and it will affect the purity of the water in that case. Yes.
So 10 by 10, you mean like
Yeah, like a pond, yeah, but the measurement, if roof measurement, that is 10 by 10, yes, or less, then it will be impure. If it's bigger, then it's like a swimming pool, then that won't come under it. See the myth?
Brothers asked, is it true that if you have wet feet and you go into the masjid, that's a sin, makruh, or is it just?
It is disliked. It is disliked. Okay. Heavily wet feet, if you like, that's disliked, which it wets the carpet. But if it's just moisture, if you like, yeah, something like that, then that is yeah, damp is okay. That's not a problem. Okay. That's good. Inshallah. It's good in the sense as well, but it's bad in a sense as well. The reason for it is, yes, there's a hadith, if I could recall it properly, regarding a reward or you get forgiven, that if you read salah straight away before your the water of your wuzu dries. Yes. So that's that as well. It's good to dry yourself. We know from hadith that the Prophet did dry himself as well. Okay, but you don't dry yourself to such a point that you get suntan before you come out. Okay, go ahead, sister.
You mentioned that if the water is greater than 10 by 10,
Yes.
it will not become impure. What if the water isn't flowing?
Yeah, even if it's not, anything greater than 10 by 10 is classed as flowing water, regardless if it's still.
What about like a canal?
A canal, canal is like a river then, isn't it?
But it's not flowing.
Yes.
So I've often heard that a canal is impure.
A canal is still going down, isn't it? It'll be bigger than 10 by 10.
Is that not classed as
Look at a reservoir. Yes? Look at a reservoir, and what will happen with the reservoir is it's still water, but it's greater than 10 by 10. Okay? And what will happen with that is that if anything falls in terms of impurity, that will still be pure. Just because it's greater than 10 by 10. Take a beck. It's not a river, so to speak, but just because it stretches straight down, it'll be classed as flowing water. So anything, just easy rule, anything greater than 10 by 10 is classed as flowing water, regardless of if it does flow or not. Like a swimming pool. You got a massive swimming pool, greater than 10 by 10, the size of a football pitch. Yeah? What will happen with that? It's classed as flowing water. Yes?
Even like if you walk along some canal, it's disgusting, you can just visually see that they're impure.
We're going to come that you don't do wuzu from where the impurity is. Yes? Yes. You have to make a difference between disgusting and if it's clean or not. Yes? Things can look disgusting, but they can be clean. Yes? You get many fruits like that. Yes? Certain fruits, when you open them up, you look at figs. Yeah? If you're not used to figs and you look at them, you think, what am I eating? Yes? But then when you eat them, you benefit from them. So look at this, right? That I told you that a 10 by 10, if it's less than 10 by 10, and it's still water, 10 by 10 and it's still water, then what will happen is if anything falls in it, like in najas, a pig falls in it, then it will become impure. If it's greater than 10 by 10, we class that as flowing water, regardless if it's still or flowing. We class it as flowing water. And one of the ways to understand if it's greater than 10 by 10, regardless if it's still or flowing, is that if you were to cause ripples in the water, they wouldn't reach the other side. Yes? So if you were to throw stone in water on your side where you're standing, they wouldn't reach the other side of this pond or river or whatever it is. Yes? We'll say that's bigger than 10 by 10. Okay? So that is najas. The fifth one is mashkook. Mashkook. What's mashkook? You should know that word, mashkook. Yeah, shak. Mashkook. Doubtful water. I'll just give you the example of it is water which a donkey or a mule drank. Donkey or a mule. Okay. A mule is a combination of a horse and a donkey. Would you call him a hybrid? Hybrid. Is it? That's on electric and oil, yes. The reason it's doubtful, the truth is there's no doubts in Sharia, is there? So where did this come from? The truth regarding is we just could not, when we looked at the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, we saw that there were a hadith which apparently looked like they go against each other. When we look at some hadiths, we find that it's pure. Yes? Because the Prophet ﷺ would ride donkeys. That's one of the descriptions of the Prophet ﷺ. That the Prophet ﷺ would ride a donkey. But then, the Prophet sat on it. Yes? The Prophet sat on it. That shows us that it's pure. But then on the other hand, we also find a hadith in Mubarakah where the Prophet ﷺ said it's impure. Yes? Now the problem, we could not find a way out of this contradiction. It's a contradiction on another side. Just because we cannot date the hadith. Because sometimes the Prophet said something in the start of Islam and then changed the command at the towards the end of the life of the Prophet ﷺ. So because the problems on our side, the Prophet didn't contradict himself. The contradictions with us because we can't date the hadith. We can't find which one came first and which one came after, for example. That's why the ulama decided to say it's just doubtful water. Doubtful water. Let's rewind back a bit. That's all 5 of them now. Let's rewind back.
Was that mule, donkey, and the horse? Or just
No, not horse. No, horse is pure. Let's rewind back and we talked about tahir mutahhir, didn't we? And we talked about less than 10 by 10. Less than 10 by 10. Now look, when it comes to tahir mutahhir, how do we say that this water has become tahir mutahhir? One was the scenario that we gave that you somebody pours the water and you do wuzu and let the water go into a bucket. We know all that water is used water. There's no doubts, is there? Yes? It can't be used. But Mahbub said that you're doing wuzu and then what happens is you either put your hands into the water or the water that you were using, for example, you got a bucket and you just put your hands in and you're washing your face with it, but then that water also goes back into the bucket. Yes? So how do we now work out that that water is used? That water is used. We use the rule of overcoming. We use the rule of overcoming, and this can work throughout. So you have solids and liquids. With solids, first we look at how a solid thing can overcome water. Yes? So you might have something that has 3 attributes. Let's do it this way, sorry. That a solid thing can overcome water when it takes water out of its thinness or thickness, whichever you use, and its flow. The truth is they're a necessity of each other, aren't they? Yes? Meaning water has its own flow, doesn't it? When you put water onto a table, it has its own natural flow, doesn't it? Compared to milk. For water to be overcome by solids, by a solid thing, yes? You have solids and liquids, don't you? So there might be something that is a solid thing. Now, when that falls into water, it changes the form of the water, but in what? In terms of its thickness or thinness, whichever word you want to use. Let's use thinness. Yes? Yeah, we're going to give the example, inshallah. Just understand this and then I'll give you example. So, but these two are necessary to each other. So, for example, if water is taken out of its thinness, that it becomes thick, yes, then its flow is going to be affected, isn't it? Isn't it? That if water becomes thick, then it's necessary that it starts to flow a bit slower. It's not flowing really fast, is it? So the necessity. Now, example of this is, and if it's a solid, but the attributes of the water change, they're two different things. The attributes of water. One is its flow and its thinness, and then another thing is its attributes. What are the attributes of water? It has no color, it has no smell, and it has no taste. They're the attributes of water. Okay. For example, if a fruit falls into water, if a fruit falls into, yes, and what happens? It falls into water, it may change the color of water, it may change the taste of water, and it may change the smell of water. But the water is still in its thinness, and its flow. And it's still thin. In like you have these Volvic new drinks that you have? Flavored water. The water, aren't they? But just flavored. Sometimes the strawberry ones, you can see a bit of redness in it as well. Yes? But that's dependent on what they put in it really, okay? That's a different matter. But let's say they just dipped strawberries in it, okay? This water, if it's changed all the attributes of it, but it does not change the flow of it, this water has not become overcome. Yes? Meaning the second substance has not taken over the water. But the solid thing has not taken over the water. But if the solid thing takes control over the flow of water and the thinness of water, for example, you threw an orange into water, and then what that orange did was it made the water thick. Yes, it made it thick. You threw a few mangoes into water and it turned into lassi. Yes, for example. Now it goes thick, doesn't it? Yes. Now you can't do wuzu with that water. That water becomes tahir, ghair, mutahir. Meaning the drink itself is pure. There's nothing wrong with the oranges, is there? Yes. But it can't purify. You can't do wuzu with it. That's one. The liquid is a bit technical. The liquid one is a bit technical. And we're going to stop on this as well.
So is that first one? So that first one is
Was solids.
viscosity.
Yes. Yes. The liquid is slightly technical because we have to look towards the attributes of water. So if water has three attributes, sorry, not water, if the liquid, the second liquid that you're using has three attributes, meaning it has a color, it has a smell, and it has a taste. If two of these attributes enter into the water, any two, yes, then we'll say the water is overcome. The water has become overcome. Okay. So that's that. For example, vinegar. Vinegar has a smell, it has a taste, and it has a colour. Now let's say two of them. We know the colour is going to straight away go in, and maybe the smell of it will straight away enter water. So now if there's water, meaning two things are mixed like that, then you cannot do wuzu with this water. It's still tahir though, still pure. Vinegar is pure, isn't it? Yes. But you can't do wuzu with it. Let's say there's a thing that has two attributes. Two attributes. If one of those attributes goes into water, then we'll say the water has now become overcome. For example, milk. Milk has a colour and it has a taste, but it doesn't have a smell. Yes? Remember that. If it does have a smell, that means it's off. The day's gone off. So here, if you mix water with milk, then what happens? It depends how much water you put into it. But let's say the water is majority, and then you mix milk into that. The first thing that will happen is that the colour changes. The colour changes. The taste might not go into the water, but the colour will definitely change. But because milk has only two attributes, that's colour and taste. As soon as the colour goes into the water, spreads into the water, we will say now this water has become overcome by the milk. It becomes tahir, ghair. I mean, you can still drink it, yes, and it still can go on your clothes. Okay. That'll be majority of milk these days. Okay. Majority of milk will be tahir, ghair. They mix it with water, don't they? Let's say if it mixes with something that doesn't have an attribute, such a liquid that doesn't have an attribute. Which liquid didn't have an attribute?
Certain oils. Certain oils would.
No, that's impure though, isn't it? Yes. Remember, if it's something impure for, then that's it, it's gone, the water is impure. Even in a small drop. Wait for the azan to do this one.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
Remember, we're talking about tahir, ghair, mutahib. Yeah? If anything impure falls into water, then it's impure. Simple. There's no doubts about that. We're talking about pure things here. Okay. So we're talking about tahir, ghair, the third category. Okay. So we did a liquid that has 3 attributes, we said if 2 attributes go into the water, then the water is now overcome. Then it becomes tahir, ghair mutahhir. We talked about that if second liquid has only 2 attributes, then it becomes, if 1 attribute goes into the water, then it becomes tahir, ghair mutahhir. Yes, you can't do wuzu with it. Now, what if such a thing falls into water which doesn't have an attribute? And I asked you a question, what is that thing? What is that liquid? No? Saliva is pure, by the way. Used water, there you go. Used water. If used water, you got two buckets, and you know one's used water and the other one is not used water. Yes? And someone came along and thought, why are we using 2 pots for? Can just use 1 pot. Yes? Mixes it all up. So what do you do now? No, it's not impure because used water is tahir, ghair mutahhir, isn't it? We're only talking about this category now. Yes? Tahir, ghair mutahhir. So how do you work it out now? Yes? No. We do a mental scale. Yes? We judge it mentally. You don't need to get your weighing scales out. Just judge it mentally and scale it in that way and weigh it mentally. That what? That so-and-so person did wuzu and he only used a bottle of water. So the water that was in this bucket was only like 2 liters maybe. And this bucket was full. And a bucket, I don't know, 10 gallons. Yes? 10 gallons it holds. Yes? And then somebody mixed it in. So we know that 10 is more than 2 liters or 2 gallons. Yes? We know that. So now we'll say that the natural water overtook the used water. We'll say it's pure. We will say it is pure. But if you turn the scenario around, that there was 10 gallons of used water and only 2 gallons of normal water, and then somebody mixed them up. Now we'll say that the used water has overtaken the natural water and wuzu cannot be done with this water. Now it is tahir, ghair, mutahhir. Does that make sense? Yes? Now we can derive from this that you're taking a shower, you're doing wuzu and you get little drops coming into your bucket. Yes? They don't matter because mentally you know that the normal water, the clean water that's inside that bucket is more than a single drop of water. Go for it.
What becomes the limit or the percentage of, say, we have 1 liter of impure and 2 liters of pure. If the 1 liter of impure goes to the, does that overcome? Because even though it's only double, what is like if you had to put a percentage?
No, if it's equal, then we'll go with caution and we say it's impure. Yes, but if it's up and down, that's when we do what we said. Yes, but with equal, you always go with security in that one. Okay, you wouldn't risk it. Does that make sense? Yes. Shall we carry on with our Arabic? Yes. I gave you some terms last time in regards to this. Yes, Rafa, Nasab, Jar, Fatah, Zamma, Kasra. Yes, I want you to remember them all the time because we won't need them straight away, but in the future you're going to need them a lot. And we're going to be using those terms a lot. So we said marfu, what is that? All these things we're going to be using. Like we said last time that the sarf is centralized around words, isn't it? Yes. So what are words? You know, we call them lafz, don't we? Yes. So lafz, what do they mean? Lafz in the Arabic language, in its literal meaning, means to throw. What does it mean? To throw. Like the Arabs say, akaltul tamrata wa lafaztul nawata. That I ate the date and I threw out the stone. Lafaztul nawata. Yes? And the stone that is inside the date, that's called a nawat. But in Arabic language they say lafaztul nawata. Lafaz. Yes? Meaning I threw out the stone. So his literal meaning means what? To throw out. But we're not concerned with the literal meaning, are we? Yeah? We're concerned with our science. And in our science, in sarf, it means ma yatalaffazu bihil insanu. Ma yatalaffazu bihil insan. You can just take the English of this. That which the human pronounces or speaks. Yes? So what you speak, they are words, aren't they? Yes? They are words. Now, with the literal meaning and the term meaning, there's always a bit of a connection. You can't just make your own meanings up. Okay? There's always a connection. And that is what? That the literal meaning is to throw, and the term meaning is what a human pronounces, what a human speaks. Yes? So what's the connection between them? The truth is, when a human speaks, he throws out words. He throws out words. This is why we, as an Aqidah point as well, we never say the lafaz of the Quran. Disrespectful then, isn't it? Yes? We always say the nazm of the Quran. Nazm is a necklace. Nazm is a diamond necklace. Yes? So we always say regarding the Quran, the nazm of the Quran. We don't say the lafaz of the Quran. In English, they say words, so whatever you find in there. But words in the Arabic language, unlike every other language, can be of two types. You can have words called mawdu'. Mawdu'. Should have that word. Get used to seeing Arabic without zabar zairs. Okay? Mawdu' is on the same scale which we mentioned regarding marfu', mansoob, maftuh, which we talked about last time. The opposite of mawdu' is muhmal. Put it up on that for you. Muhmal. You know, mawdu', I'm saying it like that, but we use it in Urdu. Aaj ka mawzu is the same word. Okay? Mawdu'. Yeah. Mawdu' is a meaningful word. What is it? Meaningful word. And muhmal is the opposite. What's the opposite then? Meaningless word. Yes? Meaningless word. The example of mawdu', if those of you don't sarf, is what, Umar? लफ्ज़ मुहम्मल वो है जिसका माना हो जैसे almost forgot it. Roti, you did it with me, didn't you? Yeah? Roti and pani, for example. Yes, you say khubz in Arabic. Khubz is roti or bread, but it has a meaning, doesn't it? Yes, you think about it and there its meaning. You get a circular shape inside your mind. Yes, for some. Okay. You think, we say water, we say ma, water in Arabic, and you think of water. That's a meaningful word, isn't it? Every time somebody says something to you, those images you get in your mind, or whatever you understand in your mind, that is a meaning. But then there are certain words in every language which are meaningless. We have loads of them. Roti, shoti, pani, shani, cha, sha. Yes? You have all of them. You have them in Arabic as well. Yes? But because our aim is to just understand Quran and Hadith, and Quran and Hadith doesn't have meaningless words. Yes? So we don't really touch upon meaningless words. So our purpose is meaningful words. What is it? Meaningful words. Okay? Now meaningful words, which we want to get to today, is of three types. Yes? Meaningful words are of three types. But before we go into that, word is called kalima. What is it called? Kalima in the Arabic language. Get used to that word as well. Kalima. Pehla kalima. Pehla kalima. Tayyib. Not kalma, kalima. And if you want to say, if you want to make it slang, then they say kilma in Arabic.
So would
No, sorry, they were just there. I was trying to rub it out, but I couldn't stretch. Yeah. Kalima. Now, kalima is of three types. Kalima is of three types. Ism, fi'l, and harf. They're on three types. And harf.
Kalima categorize all the three types.
Yeah, all the three types. So we said lafaz, didn't we? Now lafaz is also, in Arabic, it's called kalima. Yes? Kalima is on three types now. We use the word kalima. So now kalima is on three types. Ism, fi'al, and harf. The books, inshallah, will be here next week. I've been promised now. Okay? So it'll make life easier for you. So you don't have to really juggle with it. Yeah, kalima is of three types. Ism, fi'al, and harf. Yes? Just don't ask any questions because we're running out of time. What is ism? Just briefly, and we'll do it in detail next week. Ism is a noun. Ism is a noun. And fi'l is a verb. Harf, translate as particle. Sorry if I spelled it wrong. Particle. Okay? They have their own definition. We'll do this next week again. I'll explain next week, but I'll just go through the definition just so that it's there. But we'll explain it properly next week, inshallah ta'ala. And that is that a noun in the Arabic language, ism, is that word which gives its own meaning without other words being attached to it. Like I say Zaid, like a name of somebody, Zaid, man. Yes? There's no words left, right, it's not in a sentence, you understand it. You think of a man. That's that, and it gives its own meaning, and there's no tenses in it. When I say man, it's not there was a man, there is a man, there will be a man. There's no tenses in it, there's no past, present, or future. A verb is that it's a word in itself, but it gives its own meaning without other words being attached, but it does have a single tense in it. Yes? Like we have yadribu, he hit. He hit. It means that he had done in the past. Yes? Like, sorry, he do daraba. Daraba, he hit. Yes? So it was in the past. Yes? So it's one word, single word, but it gave its meaning and it had a tense in it. Yes? He hit. Harf is a particle, and a particle is that without other words being attached to it, it doesn't give its meaning. Yes? And from the three tenses, it doesn't have the three tenses. For example, take from. In Arabic, it's min. Now, I can say from all I like, and you'll have 1,000 possibilities of what does it refer to. I'll say from. Yes? I'll say to, T-O, to. What does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. But if I say, I travel from Basra to Kufa, now it means something. It means that where I started my traveling from was from Basra, a place, and the to refers to their destination. Yes? So starting point and end point. So you have that. So these are, we'll go more in detail and take it slower next week, inshallah. If not, we'll start with Arabic first and work backwards, inshallah.